Bill, it's yours.
All right, it's all mine. Hey, welcome to COO Executives in Transition. This is our 6th month, and we're delighted that we're seeing progress with some people finding jobs, and looking forward to all of you finding those jobs. Just a few objectives and expectations. The COO Executive in Transition is designed to support chief operating officers, and it's in these uncertain times and challenging business times. Getting COOs in transition on your way to your next great opportunity is our mission. Open to COO Forum members, as well as any chief operating officer or second in command executive, pro bono, absolutely no fees or obligations. This initiative aligns with the Chief Operating Officer Business Forum, Inc. COO Forum core values and is expressly intended for chief operating officers and second in command executives. We're in our 6th month, and we are continuing with looking for also some new wrinkles, and I'm hoping that as we find those, we will let you know, and we will be adding value to the whole enterprise. Just a brief kind of, I guess, guidelines here. Meeting courtesy, let's keep everybody muted while the speaker is presenting and so forth. It just keeps the chatter down. Business first, it's a casual. If you have to go somewhere, the dog walks through, whatever it is, it all happens in the COO forum because that's what happens in the Zoom. Just realize everything's relaxed and informal. Business language and no politics, those just work better. The meeting is recorded, so we're going to post it on the Mighty Networks, and we have all the meetings posted to the Mighty Networks. Feel free to check some of those out if you missed one. And then keep your job prospects confidential. We just don't want anybody overhearing you and poaching your opportunity. So I encourage you to do that. And that's it. So I'm also chartered with the Laura Weichel is the COO Forum second in command, executive vice president. She's based in Atlanta, and she is a integral part of what makes the COO Forum go. We're also joined by Fiona Murray, who is relatively new to our organization. She heads member services, and she is the one who is taking care of you in the COOs in transition on all fronts and doing lots of other things as well. We are delighted Fiona is part of our team. With that, I'm going to throw it to Laura. You need to unmute, Laura.
Too many things on my screen. Sorry about that. Sure, I would like to take a minute to welcome our thought leader today, special guest Donna Evans. And she comes to us from Denver, Colorado. She's the president and CEO of Phenix Growth Partners, and Donna uses her extensive experience to help leaders and entrepreneurs to grow their businesses and careers to 6 and 7 figures. Donna's been a recruiter for large technology companies. She's led strategic planning, training, and organizational development for thousands of employees, and was the president and CEO of a large chamber of commerce. She created the Top 25 Most Powerful Women event and founded the Women's Leadership Foundation, dedicated to helping women get onto publicly traded and nonprofit boards. Donna's awards include CEO of the Year with the Colorado Association of Commerce and Industry, Outstanding Women in Business with the Denver Business Journal, and Extraordinary Women with the radio station KOSI, and Women in Business Champion of the Year with the Small Business Administration. And with that, I am very excited to introduce to you Donna Evans, and she'll lead our session from here, and we'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm thrilled to be with you here today. And I think it's really fascinating that we're meeting on Groundhog Day, right? And I don't know if those of you who've seen the movie, has it felt like Groundhog Day a lot during this, in 2020? It hit me that it is quite a bit. So here's our agenda today. How to lead from within. It's an inside job. Systems to create success daily. Thinking outside the box. How do you recognize opportunity? And secrets to building your tribe. All that we can put together in the period of time that we have. So you heard just a little bit about me. And so as the group, being a recruiter in a large tech firm and running employee training and being a chamber president, I spent a lot of my career developing individuals and helping them to navigate their careers and their businesses. And so I think it was really interesting as we walked into this pandemic, just how much change happened in so many industries. And I was talking to Laura earlier, there's always winners and losers in crisis. So we're going to talk about how do you really set yourself up to be one of those winners. So, the other thing about Groundhog Day is, the groundhog looks up, and if he sees his shadow, we have 6 more. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about what's your shadow. What are the things that serve you and what are the things that don't? And how does that make a difference in the results that you receive? But if he sees no shadow, then spring will start early. And I don't know about you, but I am ready for spring to start early. So let's first of all look at our beliefs. And I'll talk in a minute about why our beliefs are so important. You can see from this screen that actually our beliefs, most of them come to us before we're 18. So 95% of our beliefs, habits, and decisions are neurologically hardwired in our brains, which are other people's programming. So when you think about that, how do you think about what you think? I think we should be a little suspect, right? So if most of our beliefs come to us by the time we're 18, I want you to think of your 18-year-old self. Did you have much life underneath you? How much did you know? I mean, at 18, we probably thought we knew everything, right? But how much did you really know? And if you understand that most of the things in our lives are driven by our belief system or our paradigm, the lens in which we see the world, how is it serving you? And maybe let's take a look at those belief systems and our paradigm and compare it to our results. So those of you who wear glasses or lenses, you know that our eyes change, right? And what happens if we don't do anything about it? Well, we end up seeing through really abnormal or strange lenses. And when we can't see clearly, it's hard for us to make good decisions. So when we notice that our eyes are changing, we can no longer read the small print or see the stop signs, then we know we have to go in and we've got to get new lenses. And my challenge to you today is let's look at your lens and let's make sure that is one that it's showing you the world clearly so that you can make clear and intellectual decisions. That really comes from a lot of things. It comes from our belief system, how we were raised, how we think about ourselves, right? And it also comes from the lens in which we see the world. And there are 2 major mindsets, a growth mindset and a fixed mindset. We're going to walk through both of those. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to jot down which of these feel or look like you. And of course, I want you to be brutally honest because this is all about nobody's going to look at this but you. And then we can look at it to see, is it serving? So a growth mindset, I can learn anything I want to. And a fixed mindset is either I'm good at it or I'm not. So you are all in transition, and I have been there. I remember when I was laid off quite a while ago, and there were so many things that happened emotionally, mentally, at the time that really helped me to understand how healthy mentally I was. But if you come at things and you say, well, I can learn anything I need to or want to, meaning I can learn how to do a good job search, or I can learn how to show up as an expert in my field, then you're going to go much farther than someone who says, I'm good at it or I'm not, and I've never actually done a lot of job search. I don't know how to network. So looking at that growth mindset will help you in many ways. When I'm frustrated, I persevere. Or when I'm frustrated, I give up. So when you look at how people navigate our world, the ones who you read about, you hear about, those are the ones that continue to get up. So perseverance is critical. And then learning with the things that you need to do to help yourself to get up each day, which we're going to talk about in just a little bit. I want to challenge myself, or I don't like to be challenged. Well, we are in challenging times with this pandemic and everything that's happened with our work world and how we see what change is going to happen when we don't know when things are going to open or how it will be. It's a big challenge, right? So you have to be able to step into that feeling of being uncomfortable. When I fail, I learn. Or when I fail, I'm no good. And this is a really critical one, because if you look at something that you did not do well, that you thought you did not do well, and you equate it to a failure, and then you say, then it is, I am no good. Can you see how that energetic level will make sure that you never move forward from that place? So failure is a stepping stone, right? Does not define us. Or tell me I'm smart. Well, during this job search, you're going to have to try hard. And the people who I work with who see the biggest, and if you succeed, I'm inspired, or if you succeed, I feel threatened. So one is about abundance. There's enough for everybody. The other is there's just a limited opportunity. And if I don't get that opportunity, if someone else gets it, I feel threatened. And then my effort and attitude determine everything, or my abilities determine everything. So one thing I know when I was in job search and as I've worked with executives who are in transition, attitude is everything, because it gives you the hard things that you need to do and what you're hoping for. I love this quote. Your living is, oops, sorry about that. Your living is determined not so much by what life brings to you as by the attitude you bring to life. Let's read that again. Your living is determined not as much by what life brings to you as by the attitude you bring to life. Not so much by what happens to you as by the way your mind looks at what happens. So how are you looking at your circumstance right now? Because that makes a big difference in what you are willing to do to turn it around. So you determine your success. A positive attitude gives you power over your circumstances instead of your circumstances having power over you. And I will be the first to tell you that if you have a positive attitude, but you don't do anything about it, you don't equate activity to it, you will fail. But if you have a negative attitude, even when you're putting activity to it, the energy that you are putting out is not helping you. So I remember when I was a recruiter, and I have a specific story that I remember, and that interviewing a couple of individuals, and on paper, they had all of the skills that they needed in order to make the interview, right? Or I wouldn't be spending time with them. And so basically, they're the same individual on paper. I bring both individuals in, and I'm interviewing the first one, and he's got all the skills, but what am I looking for as a recruiter? I'm looking for fit. Is this person going to fit in my organization? Looking at attitude. Are they positive? How are they going to handle when things go bad or go wrong? What is it that they will do? And the first woman that I interviewed, actually on paper he had everything, but my gut kept saying something is wrong. I didn't know at the time what it was, but I knew that for some reason he wasn't fit. And then the next person I interviewed, he came in confident, spoke with authority, showed, we talked about things that he talked about ways that he had overcome. Guess who I hired? he's working for us, I want to make sure he has the ability to come out of that, persevere, find a better way. So you determine your success. And honestly, as people who, live from the outside in, typically that's how we're socialized. So something happens to us and we react. But what if you have a solid, belief within yourself that whatever happens to you, you have the ability to overcome it? What kind of energetic level will that be? And, research has shown we're energetic beings, right? So like energy attracts like energy. And if you're looking around you and you are attracting negativity or really folks around you who are not helping you, look at your energetic level. And it could very well be that your energy is very low, but there are ways that we can change it. So let's first talk about fear. Fear is really interesting. When I was laid off, there was a lot of fear. A lot of fear. And that fear, what did it do for me for a period of time? It paralyzed me. It really did paralyze me. And how effective was I at job search when I felt paralyzed? Not at all, right? I did not feel empowered. I didn't do the things that I needed to do in order to make things work well for me as I did my job search. So it did not serve me. So here are 5 truths about fear. The fear will never go away as I continue to grow. So if you're experiencing fear and you want to grow, just know that that's a typical normal feeling. You're not the Lone Ranger in any way. But if you want to grow, you have to figure out a way to stretch out of that fear. The only way to get rid of the fear of doing something is to go out and do it. I want you to think about a time when you were really afraid to do something. And then you actually did it. What happened? How did you feel about yourself? What is it that the next time when you saw that thing come up, that activity, was it easier for you to do it the second time? Usually it is, right? Because you've already done it once. The only way to feel better about myself is to go out and do it. What happens to you when you know you need to do something, but you don't do it? How does it make you feel about yourself? It makes us not, it doesn't motivate us in any way, right? Not only am I going to experience fear in unfamiliar territory, so is everybody else. Again, you are not alone in this. And understanding that fear is a part of our lives, and it is really about learning how you push through that to get to where you want to be. And pushing through fear is less frightening than living with the underlying fear that comes from a feeling of helplessness. I don't know about you, but if I have a choice between being fearful, feeling fear, or feeling helpless, I will choose fear every day. Because helplessness gets you nowhere, right? Really doesn't give you anything that'll help you to move forward. So it's interesting, we really don't think of ourselves a lot of times as holistic beings. And we are holistic beings in that our mind, body, and spirit all have to be healthy. So we'll start with your mind. Well, research has shown that you can never outperform your belief system. So what do you believe about yourself? I want you to just take a minute and write down, what is your belief about yourself right now? So now that you have looked at your belief of who you are, I want you to look at it and see, is it helping you or is it holding you back? Because your belief is so much. It is like if you till soil, if you ever plant things, you have to have the right soil, and that's your belief system. And if you believe you can, you will. And why is that? Well, the reason is you're willing to do the hard things. If you believe you can do it, you do the activities that you need to do in order to achieve what you need to achieve, right? So think about the highest earners in our country, the lowest to mid-level. What's the difference between the highest earners and the others? The highest earners are willing to do the hard things. They're not necessarily more educated. They don't necessarily have more experience, but they believe they can do it, and they continue doing activity until they get the results they're looking for. So now let's look at our body. You know, I don't know how many of you, I'd love to see a raise of hands. How many of you are left brain people? So those of you who are left brain people, you know that we're in our heads a lot, right? Well, guess what? If we're in our heads a lot, it's not necessarily a good place to be. So we need to get into our bodies. Physical activity helps us to get out of our heads. And so when you do physical activity and you're able to get out of your head and you get into your body and you really start spending time in your body, it gives your mind a rest. And you can't stay here. You've got to get into your body, right? And good health enhances our ability to think clearly. So if we are physically fit, meaning that our body is functioning in the way that it's meant to function, oxygen to our brains, you know, our bodies are functioning well, we actually think better. And of all times that you need to think better, this is the time during this transition that you've got to think as clearly as you've ever thought. So really spending time in your body. And then spirit. A strong support system is essential to our mental health. Now, we've all seen the studies that show that people live longer when they have a good support system. So how's your support system? Do you have people around you who are supporting you, who are cheering you on, who want to see you succeed? And if you don't, now's the time to create one, because it is essential not only to your mental health, but to the results that you're going to see as well. And then engage in activities that lift you up and helps you to be persistent. So, you know, we in our society, we're socialized a bit that fun, we shouldn't be having much fun, you know? But what if every day you made a commitment that you were going to do something to lift yourself up, to give yourself something that was fun? What do you think would happen then? Well, it gives you the right frame of mind for you then to get up and do some hard things, right? So it really builds that resiliency so that you can be then persistent. So now I'm just going to spend a little bit of time, and I want you to think about what are the things that have grounded you when you worked. You know, think about your workday. You had schedules, deadlines, you were doing purposeful activity, you saw success, you had shared goals, a social network, you were creating and learning others. We're going to take 2 minutes, and I want you to write down when you were working, what were the things that grounded you? And we're going to use that in just a few minutes. So let's just take 2 minutes and do that. Okay, now that you've created this list, we're going to use this in a minute, because that grounding we can create as we're in transition and looking for a next opportunity. So hang on to that. And now we're going to move to goals. You know, it's really interesting. When we think of goals, a lot of times we think of the final action, the final thing that'll happen at the end. But I want you to only think of goals that actually you have full control over, which are activities, right? As opposed to a final destination. So when you look at activities, those are your goals. So some of the activities that you want to have as goals is every day I'm going to do meaningful job search, right? That's an activity. If you put that as an activity and every day you check it off, guess what? You have success. What does that do for your self-esteem? What does it do for your confidence? If every day you experience success, it'll completely change your energetic level around what you can do. And you'll show up differently. And again, like energy attracts like energy, and you will attract to you people who are successful. And that is one of the most critical things we can do during this time. So I want you to think about what are the activities that you can do every day that will lead you toward your ultimate goal, which is to become employed. And those need to be our goals. The more we focus on the end result, the less we feel successful, because every single day you send something to an employer and you hear nothing back, or you get a rejection. You know, each time it's like a bank account. Each time it takes money out of your bank account. So how do you refill the bank account? The bank account, you have to have success every day. And then create and write down your goals. So research has shown that those people who write down their goals, the odds of them in actually achieving them are significantly higher than the ones who never write them down. And actually, if you write them down and share them, it's even better. It's even better because then you have someone who is with you as you navigate those. Visualize yourself achieving them. When you think of professionals who need to perform, so let's look at athletes, astronauts, you know, other folks who need to get up and perform in front of people. What do they do over and over again? They practice it in their heads. So they visualize themselves achieving their end goal. So what does a quarterback do? He doesn't look at it and say, my goal is to win the game. No, he looks and he says, my goal is for every one of my passes to be caught by a receiver. That's his goal. So when he steps onto the field, he's visualizing achieving that one activity that will give him success over success over success, leading to potentially his team winning the game. The same with astronauts. Before they go up in space, what do? They sit at simulators. And it stimulates them in space and helps them mentally and physically to prepare. And they visualize over and over again them achieving that goal. And that's why visualization is so important. And then create a daily schedule. And we're going to talk about time blocking. And it's interesting, when I was in transition, I didn't even know what time blocking was, but I automatically did it, which was great because I got a higher position than I thought I would get very, very quickly. And it's because I did this naturally, and I'll show you how you can put it together for you as well. And then commit. What's the difference between a decision and a commitment? Would anyone like to share? What do you think the biggest difference is between a decision and a commitment? Terry, I think you're talking, but you're muted.
Action.
Action, yes. No one?
If you're committing, you're fully invested.
There, you got it, Daniel. So the difference between making a decision and making a commitment is one is non-negotiable. So let's say you decide that you are going to exercise 3 times a week. And you get up on Monday and you just don't feel like it. Tuesday, you actually really get committed to your job search and you just work on your job search and you just never get to the exercise. Wednesday, you realize that you've already failed twice this week and you decide not to do it. Every moment that every day you stepped into decision, which meant that you could change your mind. A commitment is when you say to yourself, I am going to do this. It doesn't matter what happens around me. I am committed to this, and you put it in your calendar and you honor your calendar. And that is commitment. So how do you create commitment? And then be the CEO, evaluate and reassess. You are the CEO of your life. You're the CEO of your career, which means as a CEO, what do? They get up and they look up out of the weeds and they see how are they doing? What strategies are working and which ones aren't? Where do they need to spend more of their time? What's happening in the industry? So being the CEO is important so you can evaluate and assess your activities. So this is a calendar that is really based on lean. So lean came to us really from Toyota, came to this country. Research has shown when you group like work together, your productivity soars. Because each time you're interrupted, it takes you 20 minutes to get back to where you were before. So when you think about working smart and not hard, working smart is making sure that you're not interrupted when you're really dedicated to doing something specific. Because time is valuable. Even though we feel like we have a lot of it, at the end of the day, let's work smart, right? So what I recommend is every morning you start by really tilling the soil. Create ground so that you can plant seeds that will bloom later, right? So preparing for success. So for me, every day I get up and I read Think and Grow Rich, Earl Nightingale, any of the authors that really help you in overcoming things. That's what I read every day. And I also write affirmations that I read every day. And those affirmations are the visualization of me in my goal, who I am, how it feels, what I want to have happen. And every single morning I do that, and it creates the foundation for a successful day for me. Next, and this was really the calendar I used when I was laid off, is spend a certain amount of time every day. And I do recommend you pick the same time every day because it creates habits. Habits, our mind loves habits because it means we don't have to think, right? So spend a specific amount of time in job search every day, and whatever that looks like for you, right? And then I recommend you take a break, get out of your head. Spend some time exercising, getting into your body. And then we want you to connect. And so how do you build a support system? A big way is that you start connecting with people, right? And so for me, I made a commitment that at least 3 times a week, I would connect. And at that time, I would go to lunch or coffee with someone who could support me or could open a door for me. And those relationships flourished, and it really made a big difference in my job search. Next is, what are you good at? What really is an area of genius for you, which I'll talk about in a minute. And so where could you write about some of your expertise? And look for opportunities where you can really show people your skill set. If you have been a part of either networking groups or associations like this and they have opportunities for people to speak, raise your hand. If you've got something to offer, raise your hand, because they're always looking for people who have content that can help other people. And then spend some time learning. Of all the times in your career, this is when you have to be at the top of your game. Why is that important? Well, as I was a recruiter and I would be asking questions of the folks I was interviewing, I wanted to know, were they in touch with the reality in our field? Did they know what was happening? What was coming down the pike? So being relevant is really important. So when you look around us, you hear all the time, change is constant. So if you are not changing at least as quickly as the environment around you, you're obsolete. And nobody can afford to be obsolete, right? We've got to be relevant. And how do you stay relevant? So making sure you find ways to really stay relevant. And then on Fridays, I use that as my floater day. And again, I prepare for my success in the morning, but then I would be the CEO. I would look up, I would look at my activities. I would see what I thought was working, what wasn't. I would make tweaks. Make sure that when you're being the CEO that you don't throw something out, let's say in a job search activity, unless you've given it time to see if it's going to work. And as much as I hate to say this, it is a numbers game. And especially, with how, as you send in information to a company, it's going through an algorithm on a computer, typically looking for keywords, and if I was doing a resume writing class, I would say, write to the test every day, get rid of this stuff on your resume that doesn't matter to them, and just write to the test, because those keywords will get you in the door for the interview. And then from there is when you can shine. You got to make it through the paper cut. And then celebrate your activity. We really don't celebrate much in the US when we achieve something. What do we typically do? We go right to the next thing, right? But when we stop and we celebrate our success, what does it do to our energy level? What does it do for how we think of ourselves as being a success? It makes such a big difference. And so that's why it's so important. So now I want you to look at, how do you think outside the box? And how do you recognize opportunity? Well, first we need to really look at, what's your genius zone? So we're going to look at that right now. So we all have areas where we are really good. That's our genius zone. Gets us up in the morning, comes so easily to us. We can't figure out why other people think it's hard. That's our genius zone. Then we have areas of excellence. We're actually really good at it. We can do it well and pretty quickly, but instead of giving us energy like it does in our genius zone, it takes a little bit of energy away from us. And then adequate. We all have areas in our life where we're just adequate. What does adequate mean? Adequate means that you can do it. It's not as good as someone else could do it if it's their genius zone. It takes you longer, and it takes energy from you. And then insufficient is you're really not good at it. Like, you are not good at it. And so that when you're insufficient, so for me, we all have areas of insufficiency. Mine was some assembly required. I did not get in that line when they were teaching people how to really think that way, but I have friends who know how to do that. So I will enlist a friend to do something that I'm inadequate at, and I will give them something out of my genius zone. And so then it's a win-win. So if you find that you are living in your inadequacy, make sure you get help. Even if you're in inadequacy, get help, because it's taking energy from you, and the odds are high someone else can help you to do it in a way that will be better for you. So let's go back. So understanding your genius zone, why is that important? Well, the reason it's really important is because you want to make sure your next role, you are in your genius zone, right? Because it gives you energy and you're really good at it, which means you're going to be successful. The next is to learn how to separate your skills from your roles. And I'm sure you've heard this if you've talked to either recruiters or other folks who do help you to do the job search. The skills are like, what does it take for you? I'm not sure if you did this in science class. What does it take for you to grip the handle of a tennis racket? So you think through all of the things that need to happen, and it's a lot, right? Well, that's what you're doing. You are teasing apart every role you've ever done, and what was the skill set you needed in order to do that role? Because the next position you have may not have the same title, but it could have a lot of the activities that you've done that you enjoy and are in your genius zone. And then when do you consider doing something different? So I have a lot of executives who I've worked with when they've been in transition, and we've looked at consulting. Why would you do consulting? Like for me, I never thought I would be a consultant. I was running a very, very successful chamber in my genius zone, really enjoying what I was doing. And my mom had a stroke. And I don't know if any of you have ever taken care of an elderly parent, but it was really evident to me quickly that you can't run a big company and be a caregiver. So I knew that I had to make a really difficult career decision, and I stepped down. Now I have to tell you, being a recruiter, I never told people to step down from a position before they had another one, right? But I knew that what I needed to do, so I stepped down having no idea what I would do next. So I spent about 6 months getting my mom settled, and I started looking around thinking, what am I really good at, and what do I want to do next? Well, it became really clear I couldn't run a company. I just needed flexibility. So I turned to consulting, and I will tell you, I was the last person who thought I would be a consultant. So I decided that, what am I really good at? Well, I'm really good at helping people develop and build businesses and their careers. So I started my company 4 years ago, and honestly, I've never looked back. So many of my clients, when we turn to consulting, they do it sort of as an interim, a way that they can make sure that they stay relevant, a way that when they're interviewing, they have things that they've done recently that make a difference. They're seeing success. So what does that do for their energy level? And I've had some who've decided that they like it so much more than working for someone else that they've continued consulting. And some who've continued on and gotten a position in a company. And those really either fractional COO or any of the skills that you can do in order to participate in the workforce now will help you in the long run. So then how do you become an expert in your field? Here are a few tips. So I want you to think about the key thought leaders. Who are the key thought leaders in your field? And I want you to follow them. See what they're doing. See how they're engaging. And I want you to contribute. So if they write a blog, contribute to it and add something around your experience. So your contribution will attract their attention. And if you can attract thought leaders' attention, guess what? You can attract other people's attention who can help you then to get your next position. And then think about the things that are in demand now and find opportunities, which we talked about a little bit. And this last one, volunteer on boards. I've served on about 35 boards in my career. And interestingly, I never went into it thinking that I would get something out of it. I did it because I enjoyed it. And when I look back over my career, it boosted my career in so many significant ways. Number one, I was able to exhibit skills and leadership in ways I couldn't in my current position, which later on helped me to get higher level positions. I was hanging out with people who were successful. When you look at a lot of these boards, it's executives that work for companies. I was the face of our company, work for companies, and they are decision makers. They may be able to help you to get a new role or be a support system. Another is you're staying in the game, right? You're staying in an area. And so frankly, I look back through as my career progressed and my career I did have done very well. So much of it was the connections I made on those boards and the things that I learned leading in a different way than they had the opportunity in my role. And here you are here today, engage and show up. And that's what it's going to take. It's easy to get discouraged when you don't see immediate results, but just continue to engage and show up. So, it's been wonderful spending time with you today. And actually, of all the talks that I prepared, this one I spent probably the most time on. And it's because I have been where you are. And at that time, I had a lot of people pay it forward to me. They spent time with me. They helped me to navigate. They helped me with my mindset. They helped me with my job search. They opened doors. So I'm going to offer a couple things. One, if you'd like a copy of my slides, please put your email address in the chat box. And also, if you'd like a little bit of help, if you're feeling stuck in anything we talked about or in anything as you are looking for your next position, In the chat, just give me a couple of things where you think that you could use some help. And I'll pick a few people who I believe I can help, and we'll set a time to get together. So I've left some time for us to have some questions. So I'm going to open it up, and I may call on people. I've been faculty a little bit. So I'd love to hear from each one of you, just a brief, something that you feel like you need, either you need a little help on, or something that was an aha for you. And if everyone is okay with it, call on a few people. So John, Beach, tell me.
Hi there.
Hi.
I'd like the reminder around energy and how that attracts similar energy, and then how that carries you through those valley days, which we all go through.
So that's really good, John. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
Leo.
I think the networking elements that you brought up and building your tribe, I think, are essential. You know, sometimes you have good days, sometimes you have bad days, and it's good to share and it's good to give.
Thank you, Leo. Daniel Penza.
Hi, I had a question for you. How do you deal with some of the, you're talking about, to Julio's point, some of the ups and downs. How do you deal with kind of keeping that level mood or attitude when you've set up a bunch of meetings, they don't happen for whatever reason, then you get a bunch more, you get excited about them, and then they don't turn out the way they are. So how do you kind of keep that steady and keep moving forward?
So, when you think about setting up meetings, it involves two people, typically, or more than one. It involves more than you, right?
Yep.
And so if when we look at creating goals where we're responsible fully for it. So maybe the activity is reach out to 3 different people or 5 different people a week to set appointments. You have success in that. So it really is changing, what does success look like? Ultimately you want to be employed, right? But at this point, all you can control is you. So if your goal is to make sure that you have 5 connections on your books at all times, whether they hold or not, you need to celebrate the fact that you did it and you got 5 on the books. If you're seeing consistently that they're not making the meetings, then I would change my tactic. There's usually something a little bit wrong in the tactic that you might want to think about. And that's the CEO really looking up and seeing what's working, what's not. Does that help?
Yes, certainly. Thank you.
Okay, great. How about you, Josh?
I put a lot of stake in when you asked us to write down kind of what we think about ourselves, and I wrote down something about barriers that are in front of me. I think there's a lot of stake that we kind of a lot of us will default to the negative, right? Default to woe is me, I got this to deal with, instead of viewing it as the opportune side, the opportunity, or the positive side. The being in transition, which currently I am not, but the number of people that I talk to that are just down, and it's so heavy to be in transition right now with so much uncertainty. But this is also an opportunity to just be vulnerable and network as much as possible, and really meet some great people, which I've done through this forum. So those are the things that come to mind with me, is just trying to keep that attitude in a positive light, even though this is a heavy time for a lot of folks.
Right. And it's a time, Josh, where you really have to discipline yourself. And you have to make sure that you, again, you're picking activities, or your goals are things that you personally can achieve. And I remember when the pandemic hit, and, I worked with executives who actually lost their jobs. I worked with business owners who all of a sudden their business stopped. And if they believed that they would not be successful during that time, they were right every time. I could give them every tool. I could walk with them. But if they believed that they would not be successful, they were right. But once they believe that they had it with what they had within them, so look at all the things you've overcome in the past, come out the other side, start paying attention to that and just saying, well, I did it then, it's different, but I can do it now. And so really beefing that up within yourself makes a big difference. So thanks. How about you, Steve DeVoe? If you're talking, we can't hear you. Okay. Steve, he's doing it 1 second. While you do that, I'm going to move Joanne. Go ahead, Joanne. I think he's having a hard time with his audio.
Okay, sounds good. I love everything that you have to say, and I do think it's really important to kind of reset your mind frame to say, I like what Josh had to say too about we're making connections, and it can be enjoyable. It can actually be really neat to learn from other people, and I have very much enjoyed my networking activity. I think where it starts to, and you can only control what you control. I think that's your point there, that the activities are what we know we can control. We can't control the outcome necessarily. But when it's gone on for a long time, it is harder to always stay buoyed, always show up, always be positive. There are days where that gets tough. So we had another speaker, I think George Murray, who talked about setting up sort of a board of directors for your job search. And I think that's a really good idea. So now on Fridays, I have an accountability partner. We are both in transition. We used to be in Vistage together, and we say what we're going to do for the week, and then we report on how we did, and we kind of celebrate each other's wins. And that actually has been a huge, huge help. So I'm hoping to do what he suggested, which is not just have one accountability partner, but have some others that will help keep me up. So this is a great talk. I really enjoyed it, Donna.
Great, thank you. So that support system, how do you create a support system? And Joanne, that's a really good way to do it. But look back through who can support you today, right? Would anyone else like to share their thoughts? Yes, Darren.
You say Darren? The point you touched on about consistency and getting up every day and treating your search like a job, I think is incredibly important. I've started creating that list of what am I going to do? How am I feeling today? And one of the tricks I use is I actually keep a very short journal in the morning. What am I thinking about? What are my goals? What are my affirmations? And then what is my mood in the morning of that day? And I've been able to look back and, Daniel brings up a good point. You ride the roller coaster. Some days it was a 1, meaning the low, and other days I've had a 5 where I've just been awesome. And we're human beings. We're going to ride through that roller coaster, but it's about being consistent, setting up those meetings, having those conversations with people, not to find a job, but for a job to find you. And that's what I've found in my networking is people want to help. And the more that you talk to people, you learn about them, you'd be amazed how much you learn about yourself. And I've had some really good conversations with a lot of good people. So just my little bit there about being consistent and treating it like treating your job search like you're going to work every day. The same intensity and focus you would put into your full-time COO role should go into your full-time search for a COO role.
I like that, Darren. That's so good. That's so good. So again, if you'd like to connect with me, please put your email address in the chat, and I'll send you the slides. And if you'd like for me to spend a few minutes with me, just let me know, and we can spend some time together. And with that, I think I'll turn it over to Laura.
Very good. Thank you very much, Donna. Really appreciated that and your willingness to share your time with us today, and also to offer your time outside of this to anybody who presents it to you. I'm just going to share the screen real quick just to give you an idea of what we've got going if everybody can see that, what we've got for the rest of February. I can't believe we're in February. So we have some thought leaders, some you may have seen, some you may have not, and looking forward to these different topics that we've got throughout the month. And then we also have some planned for March, which I'll present to you later, but hope you can continue to join us. And also ask that if you land something that you let us know. I talked to somebody in Southern California this morning and she landed a new role. So it's nice to see that she did and that she was able to share that with us. So we want to celebrate those and make sure that you do. You can even come on here and let us all know. So that's all I have for today. We're back on next Tuesday, same time. We'll be having Andrew Lawless next week. He's extremely high energy and looking forward to having him with us and having all of you as well. So thank you. Have a great week.
Thank you. You have a great week too.